Easter greetings to Narendra Modi. I wish you, Sri Narendra Modi ji, our Prime Minister, who is into the third term, which is in itself an enviable achievement as the Prime Minister of India. I wish you not a happy Easter. I wish you great success in the projected role as the Vishwa Guru. There is no reason why you should not play that role. Indeed, as everything about us and everything that happens in the world tells us in very clear terms, there is an unprecedented need for a Vishwa Guru at this point in time. In my 75-year-long life, barring perhaps the Cuban crisis, there has never been a time when I felt the need for a Vishwa Guru as acutely as I do now. But I feel a bit disappointed that the talk of through you, India being the Vishwa Guru on the global stage was discarded or discontinued as abruptly as it was begun or initiated. That disappoints me. Goals like this cannot be just trifled with, initiated and forgotten like a dispensable commodity, like a soiled item of dress, etc. These are very, very important projections and possibilities, and therefore, a country that's as great as our country is, and a self-respecting people like us, and a great leader like you, cannot just project this and then forget about it, because that will then reflect very poorly on you, which is a calamity I want to avoid. And therefore, this entire appeal to you and this request to you is made in good faith that you will reconsider the idea of your playing the role of the Vishwa Guru, which, as I said already, is very sorely needed at this point in time. But then, first of all, we must come to terms with the fact that you and those around you found it necessary to discard that projection. And the people of India, of course, will be very curious to know why it became so inconvenient or impossible or impractical to continue that effort. The obvious fact is that nothing great is achieved in a very easy, simple manner. There is a price to be paid for everything, and the greater the cost, the greater the price. And being the Vishwa Guru is no small feat. It is a million times more important than winning a Nobel Prize for Peace, which is President Trump's highest wish. In fact, your desire to be the Vishwa Guru is incomparably higher than the ambition of the American president to win a Nobel Prize. So, this prospect, which seems so very desirable to you, and it seemed desirable to all of us, India becoming the world guru, the Vishwa Guru, should have been persevered with. But then, also an open-minded, honest enough attempt made to understand why it seemed not very feasible to continue with that effort. And let me take a few minutes from your very hectic time to share my thoughts as to why, in my opinion, this became inexpedient to continue. Perhaps the realization would have dawned upon you, your camp, and upon all of us, that being the Vishwa Guru implies first and foremost having a universal global commitment the commitment to think in terms of what promotes human interests globally, which is quite contrary to the trends that is gaining ground in our midst. For example, the American madness, America First, which is the slogan of the MAGA movement, Make America Great Again. Unfortunately, the people who are chanting this do not have the wisdom to realize that America First is a slogan of human pettiness, or at best American jingoism, which will ensure that America will never become great again. In fact, America will sink deeper and deeper into anything other than greatness, into pettiness, narrow-mindedness, shallowness through this outlook. And precisely at that time, using your great equation with President Trump, you could have educated him saying, for a country to be great, it has to have a great vision. And greatness of vision is not exactly sacrificing the interest of the globe, the interest of humanity, to promote the physical, material well-being of a particular people. The moment you pit one part of humanity against the rest of it, you actually unleash forces of narrow-mindedness and therefore of conflict, of opposition, and forces that would undermine the human sense of belonging together as a family. Now, I'm sure that this idea of India becoming Vishwaguru through you had its very, very sound foundations. Because after all, the spiritual worldview, the philosophical and spiritual worldview of Hinduism is best expressed in the concept of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which encourages everyone, and is the most daring thing we can imagine, which encourages everyone to think of the whole world as one's home. The world is my home. But then, enunciating such a glorious philosophical view is one thing, and living by its implications is quite another. How can we project ourselves as the Vishwaguru if we at the same time do not have the large-heartedness and the nobility and the grandeur of the mind to think of India in complete harmony with the rest of the world? Or in other words, to assume responsibility for the spiritual, moral, and human ennoblement of the world. This is, of course, in contrast to the role that America assumed, a role that's now becoming increasingly untenable. America as the global policeman. Your vision was different. India as the global guru, Vishwa Guru. I don't have to argue this in any detail, that being the Vishwa policeman and being the Vishwa Guru take entirely different skills and strengths and ideas. So America pursued its goal, and therefore America became the mightiest army in the world, and America will continue to pay the price for it. America has involved itself in all kinds of completely avoidable skirmishes, conflicts, wars in various regions of the world, precisely because it built up the mightiest army in the world and developed the most destructive technology of violence. Once you invest so heavily in militarizing your state, your culture, you cannot but choose war as your first option. And America is now paying the price for it. And if the Iran theater of war tells us anything at all, it is this, that the American role as a global policeman has become now very manifestly untenable. And the sooner the Americans realize this, the better. But being the Vishwaguru is different. It cannot be achieved either through economic power or through military muscle. Being a guru actually implies having the greatness of the soul, as Gandhi would say, the character and the soul force, to bring out the best from everyone in the global village. That takes, first of all, as I've already stated, the ability to see the whole of the world as one family, which is a vision that already exists in the Indian context, which is the quintessence of our spiritual insight, spiritual light. So that ground already exists for you. You only need to build on it. But you can't build on it unless and until you're committed to the full practical implications of that vision. And like in all cases, like in the case of charity, for example, it must begin at home. So being the vishwa guru, or the intention, noble, honorable intention to be the vishwa guru, must make its humbler beginning at home by your becoming the guru to the whole of India. And I'm sure that you will agree with me that you have not even begun to address that task. Yes, you have gone and meditated on the Vivekananda Memorial Rock. You have visited various temples and in many places of pilgrimage sat in meditation, very deep and profound meditation. All that's fine. But you've neither become the spiritual focal point of India as a whole, nor even the Prime Minister who cares for the whole of India, every Indian. Till now, a person like me hasn't got sufficient basis to believe that you value every Indian equally, which is a commitment that you made by taking the solemn pledge on the Constitution of India. Because the Constitution of India mandates that no citizen be discriminated one against the other. Very often you function as the Prime Minister of the BJP, a party. So as long as this remains, any claim or any posturing as a vishwa guru will remain extremely doubtful, and the people beyond our borders may be inclined to have a little fun at our expense. So the first thing to do is to put our house in order. Please be the Indian guru, the pan-Indian guru. I would be happy to welcome you as a guru, though we are of the same age, and people often accuse me of daring to imitate you in appearance. I am sometimes called the Christian Narendra Modi. I know that's an insult to you. I don't care if I'm a Christian Narendra Modi, etc., etc. So, I haven't got the impression today, even today, that you are a guru to all of us, though we are all happy to accept you in that capacity. I have no reason to believe that you don't have the ability to do so, but I have every reason to believe that you have not exercised that ability if you have it. On this Easter day, a day of miraculous beginnings, I would request you to make a beginning to become the pan-Indian guru to every Indian. You are our Prime Minister. You belong to all of us equally. But that large-heartedness to treat every Indian as entrusted to your charge, your stewardship, needs to be exemplified beyond the shadow of any doubt. Let that be the humble beginning. Without that, if you suddenly think that you can play the role of the vishwa guru, it is not likely to command any credibility, and in fact, on the global arena, it is likely to be dismissed with a certain degree of contempt. Now, the second step towards becoming the vishwa guru is to create a climate of amity and harmonious coexistence with our neighbors. Sad to say, the last 10 years I find our foreign policy vis-a-vis our neighbors extremely defective. As a result, today we are in a very sad and regrettable state of being completely isolated where we are. We have no neighbors. How can you be a Vishwaguru or India be a Vishwaguru if it is so completely disowned by its own neighbors? So that is the second step. And you jolly well can do it. You have the ability, you have the inner charm to do this. Please go out of the way and create an atmosphere of living harmoniously together in the neighborhood. Send out this message to all countries in the neighborhood, including Pakistan. After all, Pakistanis are also human beings. They are our brothers and sisters. Let's live together in peace and amity and harmony. We can only gain from it, and there is no loss. It's a win-win enterprise. And the third thing to do is to cultivate an attitude committed steadfastly on universal values, particularly truth and justice, towards every issue, particularly every conflictual issue that comes up. And to be absolutely consistent and credible in this. For example, your noble intention to establish peace between Russia and Ukraine suffered a rebuff, and I experienced a great deal of pain in that context. I felt I was humiliated and insulted. By the way, Zelensky dismissed you by saying, well, if you want to establish peace, go and stop buying oil from Russia. But he was underlining an important practical truth. You can't combine the posturing of a peacemaker like Trump is doing. You can't undertake the posturing of peace and at the same time trade and traffic with the forces that destabilize peace, unleash cruelty, destruction, and death on others because of their strengths, simply driven by mercenary calculations. After all, the compulsion to buy oil from Russia, certainly it was a great economic windfall, I don't doubt about it. I have no argument on this. But the fact that for us, money making was more important than commitment to justice was something that completely undermined our credibility, and your credibility in particular. And that came as a slap on the face, which I wish hadn't happened. I feel for you. So the third thing to do if we want to be a Vishwaguru is to be consistent in our profession and practice. We can't be peacemakers and at the same time cold-blooded merchants. I remember you saying in one of your speeches that we are Gujaratis and therefore we know how to make money. I'm not saying that making money is a bad thing, but I'm saying definitely that prioritizing profit over peace, over universal values, particularly over justice, is quite a dishonorable thing. And it will only be seen in that light anywhere in the world. So that's the third thing I would earnestly plead with you to consider. Are we today consistent in our profession and our practice, in our posturing and our reality? For example, India is projected overseas with a huge investment and elaborate efforts as a rising power. As a person living in India, I'm not convinced. We have our many frontiers of weaknesses. In fact, even as we invest so much on projecting India as a rising power, evaluation of India in terms of various indices keep routinely coming out. Democracy Index, Human Happiness Index, Freedom of Press Index. In all of that, we are at the rock bottom. So all this huge effort to project India as a glorious nation, a rising power, Vishwaguru, are completely undercut. But by the reckoning of reality, that comes as a feedback from the rest of the world saying you're deficient, terribly deficient. Imagine India being classified as per the democracy index as a flawed democracy, as an imperfect democracy. And then how can we go and project ourselves as a vishwa guru? I can understand if you're running a perfect system. We have some credibility, some ground on which we can make that claim. So, the third thing, and I'm repeating myself here, to do is to effect a harmony between what we posture and what we really are. And that's called consistency, which is an aspect of truth. And the final thing, of course, to do is to think for the globe as a whole, to think of humanity as a whole. Then you have to accept the fact that Pakistan is also part of the world. Bangladesh is also part of the world. China is also part of the world. People who may not really act always according to our interests, expectations, are necessarily part of the world. We have to live in the same world, sharing the same globe as they do. And here, let me cite a reference. When the Iran war broke out, the Gulf Cooperation Council countries, particularly the 5 countries in this region, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, they said, we are not going to join this battle because after everything is said and done, we have to be neighbors with each other. Iran is our neighbor. We cannot wish away that reality. I thought that was a splendid stand to take. It was a very wise stand to take. We cannot change geography. And because you want to be a vishwa guru, you must say, we cannot change the planet. So a vishwa guru is one who is willing to accept whatever the planet contains and also think for its future, which is another story. Paucity of time doesn't allow me to say anything more about it. So, merely pitching a claim without addressing the implications thereof will be seen only as an infantile attitude by those who understand the realities of the world. And from their assessment, or in their eyes, we will look rather uncouth, weak, uncivilized, at any rate less than dignified, if you do so. You can bank heavily on propaganda and brainwash the people of India and force them to believe whatever you want them to believe. And in that respect, you have made tremendous progress, but that very success is going against you. Your domestic success has become your global liability. Because if you hadn't succeeded so eminently in India, you would have thought more realistically in terms of what you ought to do and how you need to be in the global context. I don't want to make this video any longer than it is. It's already long. So I repeat once again, the prospect of India through you becoming the vishwa guru is a tremendously exciting and inspiring prospect. I believe that a foundation exists. But I feel sad that that foundation, which pertains to the spiritual, ethical, philosophical core of Hinduism, is not adequately understood and taken advantage of. If only you would care to understand that core of light in Hinduism, the philosophical, spiritual light, you will know what it takes to be the vishwa guru. And I again repeat, nothing is more needed in the global village at the present time than the influence and authority of a vishwa guru. And it is this need that you intuited. And in relation to this need that you postured. But regrettably, you did not go beyond the posturing. Now the time has come, before it gets too late, to really go into the nitty-gritty of how to become truly a vishwa guru. I wish you great success in this, because the alternative to success is failure, and failing in respect of what is grand and grandiloquent becomes all the more pathetic. If you fail in respect of small things, then your failure is small. If you fail in respect of mega things, then your failure is mega, and the ridicule that you attract will be grand, excessive accordingly. Let that not be the case. I wish you all success. This is my Easter message. All success to Narendra Damodar Das Modi Bhai in his intended, stated goal to become the Vishwa Guru, for which the spiritual context of India can equip him, provided he is willing to derive the real substance of it, the light of it, rather than its darkness. Asatoma sadgamaya tamasoma jyodargamaya mrityorma amradam gamaya. Jai Hind.